Hey guys, today's video is all about summer fun featuring a sketch for the YouTube Sketch Hop. Hi, I'm Katie Taylor at scrappinkaty.com, where I show you how to preserve your family's memories through the art of scrapbooking.
Okay, so here is a look at this month's sketch for the YouTube Sketch Hop, and the theme is summer fun. So I have pulled out some photos from our Sun's Island trip. If you know Texas, we're known for our rivers and floating, but there is this little area that's called Sun's Island, and it's basically little huts that you can rent, and I mean, it goes from very basic to full-on tent, camping, everything like that. But I love this photo of our youngest son in one of the floaties. And immediately, these photos have been printed for a while, but immediately when I saw the DSP from the celebration, this is the fruit salad, I immediately thought of these patterns right here. Now, of course, I pulled in some other patterns having to do with swimming and then kind of the green foliage all around the river. And then I have pulled out the shades of green hexagons. These are intended to use with the Turtley Sweet, but I love them. And at first glance, they look like sequins, don't they? No, they're actually gems. But instead of being a circle, they're hexagons. So I thought that I would use some of those. And then, of course, I have been dying to use the pennants, the party alphabet on a layout. It is huge. I was so excited when I saw this because it's going to be great for scrapbook titles, but you can also use it on cards. Here's a card that I made earlier in the month for a challenge that I posted. So if you are a card maker, don't be discouraged by this large footprint. There are a lot of things you can do with it. Even with a slimline card, you can fit probably at least 5 letters, maybe 6 on there, depending on how you do it. But I'm going to cut some things off camera, and we are going to do this in real time, but it's going to come together pretty quickly. Okay, so I am going to start with just a piece of Coastal Cabana cardstock over on the left side. And I am pretty much going to just be copying this layout. There are a few little changes I'm going to make, but not very many. And then I have already cut my 3x4 pieces. So you can see here the majority of those are the Granny Apple Green. So I decided to pull in the Coastal Cabana to kind of help with this pattern. And then my title is going to be out of the orange to kind of offset that big orange photo. I'll talk more about that later. So I'm trying to decipher what patterns, how I should do the patterns. So that's my initial thought. But you see how there's a difference between the cardstock and the DSP. So now I'm thinking that I will move these two. And that'll kind of break up that color. And I'm basically going to kind of split this white. I am going to bring in some peach pie ribbon to kind of tie over here. One thing, don't be afraid to use ribbon not only on boy layouts, but also on something, you know, like a swimming layout. You can use it at any time. I love ribbon. Love, love, love. So then, I don't know if I want to put it on or... I don't want to straddle it. The ribbon's just a little bit too light for that. So you would be able to see that seam. Yeah, so let me bring out my Versamat so we can get these pieces lined up. Okay, so we've got this, and I think it was about 3/4 of an inch. Now, if you don't have a Versamat, because I know a lot of you were not close to my heart customers before the movement from a lot of consultants to Stampin' Up. So if you don't have a Versamat, if you have a glass board, you can kind of do it with that. I don't use my glass board a lot on this kind of stuff because it's hard for you to see the lines, but I do it in a lot of just my personal videos. So you could do that. A T-ruler works without a Versamat. You just can kind of make little tick marks. So it is doable, but just know that I am always on the lookout for a Versamat alternative for y'all, because that is probably the biggest question I get. So I've tried several and I've returned them because they're not as good. So I don't feel comfortable suggesting that to you. So now we're going to do the ribbon. And I'm just going to use glue dots. You could just chop it off. There are tons of ways to apply ribbon. I'm also going to add some tear tape just along the layout, but this is going to keep it around the back until I put it in my album. So we've got some tear tape, and I'm just going to put it right up on the edge of this cardstock. And it's a little bit thinner than my ribbon, so I'm not worried about it showing. I'm just gonna put that down, and then I can wrap it around the back of the layout. There we go. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut the letters using these two patterns. Now remember that I'm using the party alphabet dies. So because I haven't really drafted this out yet, the back side of this is just orange. So I'm actually going to cut the word out of this pattern and the orange pattern. So when you do that, you just want to make sure that the patterns are touching each other, or in this case, the top pattern is what's going to be showing. And then I'm just going to line these up and run it through my die cut machine. So you can see here, we've got both of those letters. Okay, so this called for a 4x6 photo, but of course I used the Persnickety box subscription to develop these, and so this is a 4x4. I don't want to trim this photo down, which I do a lot, just to fit one of my already pre-designed photo mats, but I don't want to do it on this because this is going to be a single photo, so I'm just going to make this look Polaroid style. And then it'll be a little bit closer to 4x6. So he's going to go right there, and then let's decide on the word fun and how we're looking. So yeah, I'm probably going to have to use the basic one. I really wanted to center him in these little four, so it may be that I have to do that. Not really a fan, so let's try this. The only thing is that the layout calls for some pennants up here. See, and so I haven't cut those yet. I could make those a little bit shorter. Okay, let me do some thinking here, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I have decided to move this down. And then I am going to add some 3D foam to the back of this. And then I don't think I'll have to cut my pennants. They can stay the same size, which will be good. So if you're from Texas, have you ever been to Suns Island? Or if you're not from Texas, I know that, you know, my friend Jama, of course, she's lived in several states, but they float rivers where they're from. Well, I mean, they're in Colorado right now. I'm not sure she floats in Colorado, but they have been on river floating trips. It's just so fun and relaxing. Of course, if you prefer to drink, then you can drink. If not, you definitely need to stay hydrated. We have only seen, in the many, many years that we've been going, we have only seen water moccasin, maybe. I'm going to say twice, just because once sounds outlandish, but I can only remember once. Some of the rivers, all down kind of in the hill country, some of them you can see the bottom, some of them you can't. We have taken our boys before, but they were older, but we see kids all the time on the river. It's just not something I want to do. I kind of want to just chill and relax. And I feel like if my child was in an inner tube with a whole bunch of other people that I might not be able to control, that would not be good. I'm going to add just a little bitty dimensional right under this U. So anytime you do that, just take the sticky off of the top and then pick it up either with your all-purpose tool, paper piercer, something, and you can get it put under there. And so now I'm going to cut these pennants. I never do this, but I have to get back to work. So I'm going to cut them all at once, but I just cut a slit up the middle, and then I cut from edge to edge until my scissors meet that slit. There are tons of ways to cut pennants, but I just find that that's the easiest way. I have die cuts that could do it, but again, I just think it's easy. So I think I'm going to do that one, and then that one. And I think I'm actually going to, I wasn't really liking the look of it directly over this word, but I think that's what I'm going to do. Okay, so in the sketch, they have some stitching up here with some embellishments, and I want to do that, but instead of stitching, I tried to find, you know, some baker's twine or something that's kind of the orange color. I couldn't. So I'm actually going to try something here. So I'm taking this DSP and I am going to put it on an adhesive sheet. So I'm going to trim this down. This is 1 inch. Now these are just adhesive sheets that I have used forever and ever. They are Stuck On You. Oh no, Stick It. I'll leave them linked down below, but Stampin' Up also has some adhesive sheets. And then this is 6 inches, so I'm going to cut it down to 6 inches. Honestly, I haven't purchased the Stampin' Up ones yet because I still have a lot of these, so I don't know if they have this little like cut in the adhesive. That's what I love about these. Close to My Heart also had adhesive sheets, big huge ones, but they didn't have a cut in the adhesive, so it was hard to kind of maneuver that. You had to start it, you know, if you will. So I want this side to show, so I'm going to put this on the back side. Now I've only pulled the backing off of that end, so in this instance I'm going to line up the end that still has the backing on it and then press the sticky side down. And then you can grab the rest of the adhesive backing and put it down as well. And there's this little tab. Let's just cut a super, super tiny, and this one I may actually do a 1/16 of an inch. Okay. So now all we have to do is take that backing off and we can put it on. So you just start to peel that backing. And even though I have a fine tip applicator for my adhesive, sometimes these adhesive sheets are just so much better. And I want it overhanging more on the left than I do the right. And then I'm just going to take a bone folder and really make sure that that's adhered down. And then I think what I'm going to do, so this just totally doesn't go to waste. Let's just put it flush. I am going to come in with these, and I think I'm going to do this color. The thing about hexagons is I never know whether to do, you know, like flat side up, pointy side up. I never know if it's okay to put them crooked. All the things. So I'm going to go flat side up, and I'm not going to put them crooked. Now I have this Ocean Friends. I am going to use the little water stamp just to kind of add some water here and there. I don't have a Coastal Cabana full-size ink pad yet, but I do have an ink spot that came with one of my kits. And I contemplated stenciling everywhere, and I decided not to. So I'm basically going to just be stamping around this little photo mat. I love how the little hexagons kind of break up the waves. You know, even though hexagons aren't really wavy. It's almost like sea glass, like, oh, look at the sea glass. And then the little fish come from the Friendly Seagulls. This is another one of the Celebration stamps. Being that we were in a river, not a pool, very well could have been fish in there. And I'm just going to do tone on tone for this one. Then I'm going to come up here. I don't want to do the whole thing, so I'm going to come up here and do some. I'm going to add some journaling strips over here for my journaling. I wish I had like a PML or Memories and More card that I could use, but I don't. I may look, because I've still got to find that stamp set that says summer. And so if I find a Memories and More, I may come back and hide these journaling strips. If you don't have these journaling strip stickers from Close to My Heart, you can always just use regular cardstock. Let's see, what else does this layout need? I'm going to try and emboss some of the Coastal Cabana cardstock with the Soft Waves embossing folder. This is a 3D, so I need to make sure that I'm using the right sandwich. But I love, love, love this. Now, I want the waves to go side to side, so even though this is a long piece, I'm going to do it, you know, like this. And I do want this straight, so I'm going to kind of make sure it's straight. And then I'm going to run it through a couple of times. I'm going to do all 12 inches, and then that way I'm going to see how it looks in between the fish or to cover the fish. So it does shrink a little bit. So yeah, I think I'm going to like that just as it is, the whole thing. Now remember that we use the ribbon. Of course that was going to happen. I don't have time to change that, so we are going to use some tear tape, I guess. Remember the ribbon is over that one spot of this cardstock, so I'm just going to have to trim some off. Little fishies, I liked you, but covering you up. And then as I'm adhering this down, I'm kind of pulling this so it'll reach all the way to the bottom. And then again, bone folder is our friend. We're just going to really adhere that down. So much better. See all those little waves? I got a new date stamp. You know, one of the woes about a date stamp that you've had forever is that it runs out of years. So I am going to add the date down here. I am going to add it at the very bottom because I still think that something is going to go there. I don't mind that little mark right there. And then one other thing I wanted to do is I want to add some splatter around here. So I'm going to get a scratch piece of paper and cover up everything I don't want to get splattered. And this isn't even the right marker, but we're going to use Pool Party. I am just splattering it all on the sides. You can't really see right now, but when I remove the paper, I think you can. Yeah, I mean, it's subtle. It's a little, I'm not sure. Oh well, y'all know it's done, right? So I am tempted to cut some of these oranges out. I have my new 1/4 inch punch. The good thing about the 6x6 DSPs is you get so many sheets. So whereas I'm used to, you know, having to conserve because you don't want to mess anything up, that is really not the case here because I have so many of these sheets that I can just practice and play with. I am going to cut this one by hand. Now usually my fussy cutting I like to leave an edge around so it looks like a sticker, but you know, of course this one has a different color on it, and even though I have that color on my layout, I'd rather not do that. I want to make sure I'm not hiding my little gems over there. So I scoot that up just a little bit. And then these are just with, I might actually put that down a little bit more, and I gotta put a dimensional element under that because that photo. Okay, so let's take a look at the sketch. Here's the sketch. It's got a little bit more embellishment on the top and the bottom. I did bring in, you know, the orange and whatever those are slices. My title is just kind of single instead of this. I do have the journaling strips like this one. And then overall, I am really excited about this one. I love how these colors make his photo just pop off the page. I know y'all, it doesn't matter if you see it up close or not. I'm loving the little bubbles. There's a fly in here. I'm loving the little bubbles, the little hexagon. Even though they're hexagons, I do feel like they kind of give that water natural element. And then I'm loving the addition of that 3D wave embossing folder that I decided to do in the end. So you will find a list of all the products that I use down below. You'll also find a playlist to our monthly YouTube hop. that you can go watch the other girls and see what they've created. I really like that we all have totally different styles, and we usually have totally different takes on the sketch. So if you're looking for inspiration for this sketch, maybe it's the 3x4 elements, maybe it's the pennants, then I encourage you to head on over to that playlist and take a look at all of those videos. I am going to wrap this up, and we are headed out of town for basketball. So I hope y'all have a wonderful weekend, and I will catch you next week with another video. Thanks. Bye.